Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Sphere of Being, which every time I say, but it's for us to put our oxygen masks on first to make sure that we've got abundant energy so that we can give so much to others. And within business, we may have employees that we need to engage on a regular basis. We may have that whole idea of the fact that are things really as perhaps as good as they seem? Have we got people that are resigning? Are they actually engaged in their work at the time of being actually in the business? Are they present? And are the things that they're doing absolutely required, or are things actually doing things that do we really still need to do that? And today I have the most wonderful guest, Lisa Holmes from Sandon Solutions. Now, she specializes in making sure that we've got the efficiencies and the effectiveness within our processes to engage the people, to make sure that we cut out anything that's superlative that we don't need to do, that other people, they're rolling their eyes back at the desk thinking, oh, really? Why do we do this? And have we actually gone into that and said, well, you know what? We used to do it because we needed to, and now we don't need to. Maybe technology has taken over and we don't need that. Or we've got endless spreadsheets, whereas in fact, we don't need those anymore. So there's a lot that we can learn from Lisa today. So, Lisa, welcome. It's great to have you
Thank you.
on
Lovely
the
to be here.
podcast.
Lovely to be here.
Wonderful. And it would be great to actually have a little bit of background about you. What makes you tick? What's the Lisa behind the business? Perhaps a little bit about the journey that you've been on to get you to where you are now with your business.
Um, I suppose in a nutshell, I spent 9 years, many years ago, at Gatwick Airport, mostly in operations, which was interesting, but shift work takes it out of you eventually. And then essentially, since then, I've spent 28 years within the cleaning industry, cleaning and facilities management, across three significant organizations. Um, and I've learned a lot throughout that time. It's you very quickly learn that a business is nothing without its people. So I guess that's probably a very brief overview of me. I've spent many years at board level. I've been able to. I was very lucky for a previous organisation to get involved in the bigger change management pieces of things as the business was changing, as our client base was changing, and problems were coming up that we probably didn't know how to handle in the old way. So I was given that enormous flexibility and trust to kind of make those things happen. And that has essentially made me realize what I do enjoy doing, which is getting to the crux of the problem, solving it, and sort of moving away from that. And then within that process, as I started to do that more and more, I learned more about people and how actually, your stakeholder engagement is absolutely key to the success of anything. Well, to be fair, it's the key to success of business as a whole, but certainly for any change management program. Um, and it's been an interesting journey, and that's what's essentially led me to be where I am.
And so you say, yes, absolutely. People are the business.
Yeah,
And unless we focus on them, it's very difficult to
it,
grow a business.
for years you see annual business plans being about growth and profit, and retaining clients, and all of those things are fundamentally accurate. I'm not decrying them. But behind the scenes of all that, you've got somebody that comes in every day to do their job. As part of their job, they use a system and a process to create an end product. It doesn't matter to me what that end product is. That might be part of your payroll. It might be a quarterly business report for a customer. It doesn't matter. They come in to use a system and process to achieve something. And you've got three moving parts there. And COVID certainly taught us, and I can't believe I'm still using that word, but it absolutely taught us that all the things we thought couldn't be done at home, do you know what? They could be because they had to be, because all the businesses closed off and we couldn't go into work. And that raised a number of other issues in terms of the way that people interacted, how people, I think, recognized that they got a great deal of, I don't know, I use the word comfort from the work environment. Um, because you got your people and your friends around you and your work colleagues and all that kind of thing. And there's the coffee chats and going out for lunch together, and all those kind of things sort of dissipated. And then we came back, and there's this hybrid model, which I completely agree with. I think it works for me, but I fully appreciate it doesn't work for everybody. But then what I found when we came back was we were using systems and processes that had may or may not have worked before. I don't know. I never looked at them, but they certainly weren't working for us now. And I think the biggest thing then is, and again, sort of post COVID, people have struggled. They've had caring duties that perhaps we weren't aware of before COVID as the senior leadership team. More and more, we started to read more about it, especially on platforms like LinkedIn and many others, um, and maybe taking more of an active interest in mental health. But the truth is, we don't necessarily always know what's going on in somebody's life. And whilst many, many companies are advertising and putting people through the mental health first aider course, I've done it, and it's brilliant in terms of making you aware, but that awareness sort of dissipates after time. I guess, like all learnings, unless you then use it actively, it drops off. And then we all return to business as usual, whatever that means, and every organization is very different. So I think my concern, or one of my concerns, is that you may have people who are struggling with something we don't know about, potentially using a system and a process that isn't really doing the job. Whatever it was supposed to have done, it may not be doing it now. Nobody's kind of checking it. So you've got this frustration at work, concerns at home. And as human beings, we're all a part of, we're two beasts. We're the one at home and the one at work. And they kind of, it works better for us if they both rub along nicely. Often they don't. And what tends to happen is, I mean, I know my own personal experiences when something's gone wrong at home, I throw myself into work because that's my net, I suppose, for want of a better word. And I can't be the only person that does that. But when your work also is frustrating because you're doing things that you know are achieving nothing, you know that nobody's bothering with. So you create this sparkly report, and you know nobody's reading it, or that the processes of getting to that are so outmoded and nobody's listening to you. So you then end up with somebody who's really struggling on both sides. Nobody's listening at work. They haven't got anybody to talk to at home. You've got potentially got unhappy clients. And I think that that's just it's not a massive whirlpool. It's just something that needs an occasional review, perhaps.
This is really interesting, getting into the way in which outmoded and ineffective processes and systems can actually start to gnaw away at
Mm.
somebody's mental health, and the fact that it's almost like the burden that these things become. And I think we can all hold up our hands, even in the companies
Yeah.
that try their hardest, and think, oh, yeah, that sounds so familiar, because you know what? I used to spend like half a day a week at least on something which I knew nobody'd read. I knew it would just get
No.
filed away, even if it was gone in the inbox and an attachment, and that would be it. That was it. And then you think, but why am I doing this?
And it's so frustrating. And you mentioned something in the introduction about using another spreadsheet, and I had to laugh. I mean, I love spreadsheets. I'm sorry, but I do. My entire world is based around a spreadsheet. However, I did some training on Word and Excel a few years ago in my previous company, and I did it, and I only restricted it to sort of like an hour and a half. I said, okay, you tell me what your problem is and we'll work our way through it. And they said, Lisa, you've saved me so much time. And the look on their face, and you think, we could make this so much easier. But there's a need for a spreadsheet. There's always going to be a need as far as I'm concerned. But businesses need them, and I completely get that. But sometimes they're made by people or created potentially by people who aren't actually using them. So the usability of them is ridiculously complicated, and it doesn't need to be that way. It's a fantastic tool, but it should be the same with every tool, made to make your life easier, not made to make your life more difficult. And honestly, Deborah, I've seen people open up a spreadsheet and the look on their face, and they kind of know that they've got to do it. but they know that it is complicated and long-winded and doesn't necessarily make any logical sense, and nobody's reading it. And the look in their eyes, and yeah, you're right, it is an eye roll, but actually more often it's a case of slumped shoulders and they just suddenly go very quiet. And that's the point where that becomes a bit of a problem, I think.
Yeah, I think I've done both. I think I've done the front shoulders and the eye roll, probably all at the same
It
time.
is, it is. Don't literally, I could talk about Excel all day, which is quite sad. It is a phenomenal tool, but if you make it complicated, people won't engage with it. And it's a bit like some of the other things. It starts off as a fantastic thing and then grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. But nobody actually strips it back and says, okay, like, hold up. What are we doing with this? What is our end goal with this now? So, we may have um, increased it or what we thought improved it over the years, but actually it's doing 50 odd things that nobody needs or cares about anymore. What it needs to do right now in 2024, 25 is this. Okay, so let's make something that does that. And that may take somebody a fifth of the time that it was taking them before, save them hours a week, make coming into work more of a joy than it was. And you've got happier staff. They are more likely to provide your clients with the things that your client wants, which makes happy clients. And we come back to the business plan side of things again. And it may be a simplistic viewpoint, but it's I've seen it make such a difference to people that I've worked with. For
You
me, they
know,
were simple tweaks,
there's a
but they
joy
may
in
have,
simplicity. I mean,
yeah,
that's the
oh
thing.
yes,
Just because it's simple doesn't mean to say it's not valuable. And I think that
no,
we think that the whistles and bells thing is going to be more valuable, and often it's not the case. So thanks for
no,
highlighting that, because simplicity actually is key to most things.
yeah, exactly. Do most people want to come into work? No, they do it because we've got bills to pay. There are very few people I've met in my life that actually say, "No, I love my job." And when I do come across somebody like that, I look at them and go, "Wow, it's scary," because it rarely happens. I'm not saying the person's scary. I'm just saying the whole concept of loving your job is unusual to me. I've always worked because I've had to. I've enjoyed a lot of my work. Don't get me wrong. And the challenging parts of solving a problem are where I come to life. I love that. But I don't think I've ever said I love my job. So, so the best thing that I think most businesses can do is try and make it a little bit easier for those that are coming in, because a business is only as good as its people, and that's all of its people. And if you add into that a remote workforce, which you might have, and the same similar problems that we were just talking about in terms of problems at home, they might be caring for somebody, they might be going through a health issue themselves. They might be facing financial poverty that you know nothing about for reasons you've not even contemplated. We just don't know. And not only that, they're also remote from the office. And there does tend to be a bit of a cut-off between those that are office-based and those that are almost out of sight, out of mind. And you've got to look after them as well. And they're trying to use a system and a process in a remote way with their own problems going on, and but equally you can't see their face, so you can't actually see that their shoulders go down. So businesses aren't necessarily as aware as they should be of those that are in the office, and they're probably not aware of them either.
So that sounds to me like there should be some processes and systems around the awareness and the communication element of a business that is making sure that people aren't shump shoulders and eye rolls and things like that when they don't know, because they're not going to do it in front of you, are they? I mean, that's a career limiting move. And the noises around the coffee shop and when you go out to lunch and the general moans and groans about stuff. Um, how would you help an organization that's kind of like knowing that it's not all a bed of roses and that they're just thinking to themselves, you know what, something's not right here, but we're not quite sure we can put our finger on it. What would you do when you go into an organization to help people like that?
I suppose in the first instance, trust is absolute key to getting the truth of it. And within Lean Six Sigma, which is something I did a few years back, there was a term that they use called go to Gemba. I don't know the exact phrase or the exact meaning of that, but essentially it means go to where the problem is. Don't talk to the manager, don't talk to the supervisor, don't talk to the shift lead. Go to where the problem is. And very often you'll find the solution right there in that person. They go, well, if you just do it like that, it'll make my life a lot easier. Thank you very much. But it's all you've got to engage with them. So I think small stakeholder groups, it doesn't take a huge amount of management. In fact, that's probably the worst thing that you could do to it. Small stakeholder groups, no more than 3 or 4 people, maybe up to 6, wherever the problem lies, and don't forget, the problem in my department may impact on your department. So you've got to get all of those teams, your stakeholder, small group together, and to fully understand the space has to be honest, because if you're going to lie to me, I'm going to solve the wrong problem, which is kind of lunacy. But equally, not every organization has that openness. So you've got to be clear and show that, demonstrate that in the way that you talk to people or chat with people. Show your vulnerabilities so that they better trust you. And then once you've got over that, and it doesn't take long, I've had to build up groups, even in my own organization, with people that had a full-time day job and weren't my team, but we had to do it to create a project. So that comes with its own challenges, but it's not insurmountable, not at all. But it is small groups, open lines of honest communication, get to the nub of where the problem really is, and then backtrack it and solve it. And do you know what, Deborah? It's very rarely as complicated as everybody thinks.
And the great thing is with yourself, you see, there's a certain element that I always think that it's very difficult to be objective when we have an emotional attachment to something. I know it sounds odd and you have an emotional attachment to a process,
But you
but
do.
actually, as leaders of businesses, we often set these things in motion and we kind of get married to them
Yeah.
because we wanted it got created because of it was us that needed this, and
Mm.
then it's just like, well, that reflects now on me to think, well, we don't need this anymore, and it hurts sometimes. I know that sounds weird, but it's like I say to my team all the time, just tell me if what I'm saying is fit for purpose. And unfortunately, we've got that relationship where they push back and they go, I don't see this working properly. Or actually, you know what,
Mm.
we all bought into it like 3 months ago, but now this has happened.
Yeah.
Now it's not, why do we have to do this anymore? And every now and again, I've had to hold myself back and go, yeah, okay, because my initial gut reaction was, well, we put it in place, so why aren't we using it?
I think there's one of those things somebody told me a long time ago, and I didn't recognize it at the time. I was probably 20 something. I recognize it now. The only thing that stays the same is change. And it really is. And now more so than ever, technology, AI, everything, you buy something, you walk out of the shop, it's out of date. And that's the same, that's not dissimilar to some of the systems and processes that we have in a business. You add to that, and you mentioned it sort of, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but the egos sometimes get in the way.
Mm.
And yes, you have to manage that. But one of the best questions I've ever asked is a bit like a 2-year-old. Why? Why? Why are we doing this? Okay. Why is that important? And this person doesn't exist in the business anymore, so why are we still doing it? And then you get that wonderful thing, well, we've always done it that way, which brings me out in hives because it's the probably one of the least useful phrases in a business. And it's a case of understanding that. And there's no right, I guess ultimately, there's no right or wrong. The reason that I do what I do is to bring efficiencies where there aren't currently efficiencies. And that by no means means redundancies for some people. It just means getting better a better product out of what it is that you're doing. And the person that and don't forget your end client in any product that you produce, and that doesn't have to be a widget, that can be a report, that can be a spreadsheet, it can be an anything. But there's an end client. Now that client may be a proper client in the way that we all understand a client to be, somebody who pays the bills. It might be somebody in payroll, it might be somebody in finance, it might be a line manager, it might be a colleague. Somebody somewhere should benefit from everything that everyone in your business is doing. If they're not, why are they still doing it? And could we not better utilize their time and probably energy before we sap it all out of them to do something that actually brings more benefit to the end client, whoever that turns out to be.
I
And
love this whole thing about the value and the benefit because, yes, I think that that's something that we do in our business is to evaluate what benefit does this have to us, or is it just an albatross now and it's not fit for purpose? I'd be very interested to hear from you about, you mentioned about time efficiencies and people thinking, oh, thank goodness. How is AI supporting this journey now? Are you bringing in systems and processes that include the use of generative AI?
not personally, although within the cleaning industry, there is a lot of robotics out there. There are, sorry, poor English. There are a lot of robotics out there. Um, that has its own problems because not everything works everywhere, which a lot of people seem to think it will, but it just doesn't. It doesn't work on certain areas. It doesn't work in necessarily certain floor types. So there are problems around that. But AI to me is almost an extension of when I first started work, we didn't have laptops. This is a long time ago. This is at least 3 centuries ago. And yet businesses were functional and profitable. So to me, your laptop is a tool. It's a bit like AI. So AI is just, to me, like the next generation of it. How can I use this tool to do the mundane so that I don't have to? And for me, I think that's where AI is best used. It, you know, it can't be creative yet. Maybe it will be in 10, 20 years' time. I don't know. But right now, it's not that creative. It performs a function. So use it to perform the functions that are mundane, that are sapping energy and strength and time from somebody that can actually be better used somewhere else in the business. I think that I don't know all of the scenarios, but I can absolutely guarantee that that would be a better use of it in any company.
Mm. And when you have actually been in and you're working your magic and you're finding out these efficiencies and the processes that can be axed, and everybody's going, "Yay, you don't have to do that anymore," or not in the version that it was
Yeah.
anyway. Um, what do you see? What do you hear in that business, from that business, once things have started to then recalibrate and you're getting things going in the way that they should be?
I mean, I think there's two sides to that. There's the side of the people doing it that just say, thank you so much. You have saved me hours a week. Which, and you know, somebody said to me, it's something so simple. Now I can help colleague X with a particularly difficult report that he struggles with every week, and I can't help him because I don't have the time. You think, there you go, added benefit. And from the management point of view, obviously fundamentally different. And I get that. I'm a senior leader. You don't see everything that goes on at grassroots level. That's fine. But what comes back is there seems to be less rumblings. Okay, less rumblings is a positive, you know, because if people are rumbling, it generally means they're not happy. Then you get people leave. It's almost impossible to measure the cost of recruitment to replace because not only do you potentially have recruitment fees, you've got the time it takes to train, and all of that is a downward trend in their productivity, for want of a better word, until you get them back up again to perhaps where the last person was. That can take 6, 8 months. Why would you do that? And if you've got that going on in several places in your business, that is a lot of productivity you've lost. In the meantime, you've potentially got other people that are filling in, so they're now getting stressed out. And you've got an end client, and again, internal, others, external, otherwise, who's most likely not getting what they want. So they're also irritated. You can't solve all the problems, you know, and people, and also don't forget there are people leave for their own reasons. It's not just because of that. They leave for any number of reasons. And that is always going to continue. But it doesn't seem to me to be any point in not actively trying to make their working life difficult, but actively not doing anything to make it better, is perhaps a better
Mm.
way of wording it. And
Yeah, I
that to
love.
me, see, sorry.
No, I was going to say I love that because, as you said, if you quantify time in terms of value and the hours that you're retrieving for somebody else that was doing this
Yeah.
redundant task, that is if you're doing a redundant task that's costing the business what you could be doing in that time, the profitability of that business is lacking.
Mm,
Once then you've got them doing the right task, then the exponential increase in that profitability. I mean, these things can be measured all day long as to
yeah.
how that value actually then is measured. And as you said, with a colleague that's doing something which then they can assist, well, again, how much value is that creating? But also, when people go home and inevitably talk to friends and family about their day or a boss or something that's happened, etc. When we speak about things in positive terms, we know more people, especially now with the internet, than we've ever known before.
Yeah.
And so the likelihood I would have thought about the whole PR about the business that we are working for and with is known as an organization with a much more happy reputation, with a much more um, improved reputation amongst its workforce, and they can become then the advocates of the business. Because I'd like to hear from you as well in the point of view of hiring new hires, especially from the younger generation as it comes in now.
Mm.
There's different levels of expectation than there were. You mentioned I'm similar. There were no laptops when I started work, but the technology, the kids now, the young people now coming into the workplace, we need to
Yeah.
attract the people to make sure that we get the right ones wanting to come and join us.
Yeah. And I've seen a shift, which I think is brilliant. So we used to be paid from 9 until 5. You had 45 minutes or an hour for lunch, and everybody would take their 45 minutes or an hour for lunch. And for the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, albeit I was at senior level, but I was managed on my output. And my boss knew when I wasn't cutting it, or he would have done. It didn't happen, but he would have certainly known. And I think there's more of a need for that with the younger generation coming into the workplace. They've got the creative, they've got the ability. They don't need to be sat in front of a desk every day. And if you're getting out of them what you need to get out of them, what does it matter where they are? That's one side. Then there's the other side in that we build so many relationships at work. Now, at one point, I think I'm right in saying some around 70% of people met a life partner at work. The figures were around about that. So there's the downside, and I feel for them that actually they might not get something that we experienced or maybe didn't experience, good, bad, or ugly, I guess, with all relationships. Um, and also, there's your friendship network, is the coffee chats over the water cooler and all the rest of it that actually spark off an idea. And I've seen it, it's happened to me countless times. I've gone in to make a cup of coffee, chatted with someone, gone, that's just solved my problem, and I've gone back. Had I not had that coffee chat, that might not have happened. So I think for the younger generation, I think that having tools, I did a CIPD course, which was about learning and development because I really wanted to know how the brain learns. And basically, it's got to be timely, accessible, and meaningful to them. And that's why now, companies don't send, or very rarely, send you off on a week's course. You remember those days where you used to have to drag yourself to a, yeah, it was horrible.
Conference type center somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I think they happen less. I mean, obviously, there are environments where that has to happen, and that's absolutely fine. But for the average thing, you know, they want it on their phone, accessible. They can go and get it again and again and again until they've got it in their head. And that's more meaningful to them. So don't put old things. There has to be a meeting point of what the business needs against what the next generation can deliver. And I firmly believe that that's there. It's just that maybe need to I say, and it comes back down to what I've been saying, get rid of the old systems that aren't working anymore. What do your clients want? And that has to be the biggest focus. Don't produce something you think they want or you thought they wanted 5 years ago. because it's very possible that those thoughts have changed. So you mentioned before about the feedback that I've had from doing the internal changes. Several years ago, I was working for a Dutch company, and we got some Dutch younger colleagues to come over and go and talk to our clients. So it wasn't us, which was a good thing because they tell us what they thought we wanted to hear. Um, and that doesn't help anybody. So we got the Dutch guys, and the feedback from that, I don't think it was massively unexpected, but it put it in black and white, and then we had to do something about it, which for me was great because then it was a case of, all right, so now we can make a move on this because this is what the customers are saying to us. And that wasn't through, now it might work better. These were in the days before you could turf out some sort of questionnaire from SurveyMonkey and others are available. And somebody sits there and just presses a few buttons and off it goes. These were actual face-to-face interviews that our colleagues from the Netherlands went out and sat with the customer over a cup of coffee, and it was face to face. And I think whilst that took, I think it was about a 6 month project, so it wasn't short, but it gave us so much feedback. It's well worth doing.
Yeah, the in-person touch, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, is not there's nothing like it when you do have the in-person touch. But then again, with the workforce now being so diverse, you can have neurodivergent people that, I mean, I know that I'm most probably on the autistic spectrum at some point, and I know that I love this medium of actually being online. In fact, it's my
Mhm.
preferred method of
Really?
communication. Yeah, absolutely it is. I don't thrive in crowds or busy
Mhm.
scenarios, etc. I'm very much a one-to-one person, and the internet is just fabulous for me. And this is again something I'd like to hear your views on as employers now understand the diversity and the needs of the individuals within the business. How can we adopt systems and processes which speak to different types of groups of people that resonate with them, but have that flexibility to be able to say, there's a hybrid level of working, or actually because of this person's expertise and skill sets and the way that they are, this would be a better scenario than lumping everybody together in this homogenized
Mm.
process that doesn't quite fit everybody's needs.
Um, I don't know if this works. A few years ago, where I had a discussion with somebody who said all people of a certain level should have the same skill sets. I said, that's like lunacy. Why? Why? Surely you'd want somebody that's, bear in mind, as a business, we have to do all of these things. And the customer really doesn't care who does them as long as they get all of these things. So if you've got somebody that really loves doing X that can do it for more clients, and somebody that really loves doing Y but is happy to travel, best of both worlds. So, and again, it's and so the neurodivergent thing has come as since all of this, but I don't see why similar principles can't really be applied. If and again, it's not being measured necessarily on your input, but on your output. So, as a group of people, if you achieve the various things that the business needs or that the clients need within the business, does it really matter if somebody is neurodivergent and doesn't want to do certain things? And everyone's different, so I'm not going to put people into boxes. And I'm probably there myself because I've never fitted into a box, which has frustrated more than one person in my life. So I'm probably not dissimilar to you or somewhere on scale. But if you use the skills that you have within the business to get what you want, you can, I'd like to think, work within any needs within neurodivergency to get the end result. But it's about using the skills that you've got, not necessarily the person, but the skills you've got within your team, which is why I sort of took it back to that conversation I had where also people of a certain level had to have the same skill set, which I thought was bonkers then, and I still think it is.
No,
Um,
this is beautiful, Lisa, and I just love your creativity. You see, this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast because people listening to this, I mean, do get in touch with Lisa because she's got such a wealth of creativity and thought process, not just always going for, one size fits all. And this is such a great thing to explore because as we go into the new world of work or the newly emerging world of work, people are after different things from work.
Of course.
People aren't, as you said, I was the day you got in for 9, you had three-quarters of an hour lunch, which was timed to the
Oh,
second.
yes.
And then ultimately, not I didn't work in a whistleblowing sort of not metaphorically, but woo woo, I
Yeah.
didn't work in one of those environments. But goodness me, the clock struck 5:30, and boom, that was
It's like
it.
the Mary
Gone.
Celeste, wasn't it?
It was like a
Yeah.
desert.
Yeah.
Um, and people don't want that because of whatever reasons. They want more flexibility. They want to
Mm.
have a different way of engaging with the world of work, which I think is wonderful
I
because
agree. And,
it's
honestly,
so
sometimes
creative.
I've been in the office until 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. That's my choice because we had 24-hour security, but I got so much more done. I could get to the coffee machine a lot quicker, but I got so much more done because there was nobody there. And there are certain projects where you just need peace and quiet, and you've got to have that flexibility. You've got to be, got to own up to your hours. If you're an hours based role, which some people are, and I get that, you've got to take responsibility for your input, which defines your output. But again, I'm not a fan of micromanaging. Why employ somebody and then do the job for them because you're sitting on their shoulder all the time? And you think, well, I'm paying two salaries, I only need one. And they're the one doing
Exactly.
it, so I'm going to get rid of the micromanager. And, but everyone to each to their own.
No, it's wonderful. I think that, as we were, as I say, there is a new era, like it
Mm,
or not. And I always want to, I always adopt the change and go with it because as you said right at the start, that's the constant, change is the constant. And thank
yeah.
goodness it is.
Mm.
Because otherwise we'd still be driving around in horse-drawn carriages. Some people say that might have been a better option than what we've got with global warming now. But, when we think about the advancements and everything else within, well, why shouldn't with the world of work change?
Yeah.
And why shouldn't it morph into different things, etc.? So, there's putting square pegs in round holes is never a comfortable experience. So,
No, no,
I
it doesn't
absolutely
benefit
love.
anyone.
Yeah, I love what you're thinking about with creative processes and the
Mm,
fact that not everybody's the same. Thank goodness. Thank
yeah,
goodness we're not the same. Um,
absolutely. I
this
think there's
is
always a solution to a problem. Um, and you just have to go talk to the people that are experiencing the problem. And that constant thing of why inevitably gets it to you, gets you to the end point and to the solution.
wonderful. Now, Lisa, it's been fascinating. So thank you so much. How
Thank
can
you.
people
It's
get
been
hold of
wonderful.
you?
Sorry?
How can people get hold of you?
My email is Lisa Holmes at sandomsolutions.co.uk or via my LinkedIn profile.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll have everything on the show notes as well, so everybody can
Thank you.
find it there. And what I do say is, again, please do speak to Lisa because sometimes we just need this objective approach to something that also, if we adopt something within our own business, to a certain extent, we can't see the wood for the trees.
Mm,
And some people would feel that it could be a career limiting move to have brave new thoughts that perhaps we think, well, why would they not want to? But people react in ways where, we've got mortgages to pay and bills to pay, as you've said, and speaking out and just speaking our truth of the matter can be pretty daunting. Whereas
yeah.
Lisa can come in and look at it and actually have an objective view, speak one to one maybe with the people concerned without them thinking, well, I can't really talk with this candidly to my boss because that might not go down very well or might be remembered in future conversations. So at least, having this outsider can actually come in and holistically work with the business. And with her years and breadth of experience at senior level, she's got a wealth of experience that as well, if we're in a situation and we think it's been a while since I've worked for anybody else, especially when we're at the top, it's been a while since we've had that interaction with other businesses. Lisa can bring that breadth of experience in as a breath of fresh air and without creating havoc and without destroying what was fit for purpose, but create solutions to problems now which have morphed in because of the differences in which people expect to work, the way in which we are working. And that's only got to be good for the future. So again, Lisa, thank you so much for being on the
Thank you.
podcast. It's been really
Really
good
enjoyed it.
to listen to you. Thank you. And everybody
Okay.
listening, thanks again. We couldn't do it without you. Truly appreciate your support. Like, comment, share, because this might just resonate with somebody that you think, you know what, this could be really good for a friend of mine or your boss, or you are the boss and you think, yeah, let's share this amongst the team, because the more that it's shared, the more people will know, and the more we can help to change business lives and care for those people that, we really are out there as a people-centered business. So until next time, carry on caring, and see you all again very soon.